problems facing New Zealand's primary sector have been mounting at a rapid pace. So I think it's time for open hearts and open minds. Kia ora and welcome to Sarah's Country and the first day of summer here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Too many Kiwis. It means, too many Kiwis. I can't even read my own script. Too many Kiwis. It means throwing on the jandals and togs, escaping to the beach, knocking back hokey pokey ice creams and cold beers from the chili bin. To many other Kiwis, it means dusty yards at weaning, watching sport levels in the paddock, long hours in the tractor, stressful fruit harvests, and shifting irrigation. Now, if you're new to Sarah's Country, welcome to New Zealand's fastest growing show, broadcast 3 days a week, covering the matters that matter most to farming, food and fashion. I'm your host, Sarah Perium, a proud Kiwi who's desperately looking forward to a break at the beach, doing all those very Kiwi things. But also, I know there is many more that will not be doing as much fishing as they would love to. And they are keeping our economy ticking over while we are keeping our feet up. So I raise my stubby to you tonight and tell you that we will have our last show on the 16th of December and yet to confirm when we will be coming back in the new year, but we will be taking a decent break, I can assure you that much. I do know that many farming families also do try to shoot away off farm when and where they can around jobs that must be done when you have animals and, of course, crops growing. To enjoy, a half day boating here or there, but even golly, a dip in the dam when it gets too hot to beer is absolute treat. Spending time with friends and family is the most magical moments that we can actually have in this thing called life. So I do hope you have great plans ahead to work off that gumboot tan. One thing that tends to increase a bit more over the summer, we do know, is our consumption of cold drinks. And I'm looking forward to sharing the fruits of COVID from one industry that has capitalised on lockdown later up in Sarah's Country. Despite it might not having the healthiest of scenarios, our beer and wine consumption, of course, went through the roof over COVID, but also so has our exports, and rightly so that they do pick up in what was very hard hit in that earlier part of the season. It got me thinking about, that god-awful New Year, New You, and all those sort of palaver around things that we have to try and give up. But there is also a lot of healthy addictions, I reckon, or is it nicer to say healthy habits? I have one that I'm going to share with you in one of our interviews coming up. And it's something that not too many people know about. It is a healthy addiction. I think it's a healthy addiction. I'd like your thoughts. And I'll tell you if you promise you won't tell anyone, okay? So I want you to cast your mind to something that you do as a habit that you probably do so unconsciously, but that's actually really healthy. And if you're watching along live, why don't you share this with us in the comments wherever you are watching around the world. And so a big kia ora to our Northern Hemisphere watchers having their probably very healthy breakfasts as well. Joel, I know you've got a very unhealthy addiction, buying camera equipment.
Okay.
I mean, you might not see that as unhealthy, but is it a passion? Do you just describe it as a passion? But what is something that you do that is a healthy addiction? Your mother could be watching, just to know.
I mean, I think the healthy addiction I have would be the photography, because if I don't have a camera, I'm not going to go out into the woods or go out hiking or anything like that. So I don't know. I see it as a pretty healthy addiction. Gets me outside, gets me out exploring. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And your healthy addiction at the moment with buying old film cameras, I find very fascinating, especially in this digital age. You still want that tangible film.
Yeah, it's just nice you kind of slow down a wee bit whenever you're working with film, because instead of thousands of photos, you've maybe got 12. So you kind of have to take a wee minute to think about what you're actually going to shoot, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's just a different way of taking photos. And whenever you do take thousands of photos, sometimes it's nice to just try something different.
And a big shout out to Joel's Instagram. I'm just going to try and bump up your followers. 3 Trees Rock. 3
Trees Joel, I think.
3 Trees Joel, yes. For absolutely beautiful photography. He loves birds. So make sure you check it out. I'm actually going to blow the trumpet on the owner of Farmers Weekly, Dean Williamson's healthy addiction. Don't tell him I told you this, but he gets up early every morning, opens up his laptops, puts his fingers to the keyboard to write a 2-page memo to the team and wider stakeholders on who's doing what in the business, celebrating achievements, sharing funny photos. Every single day before 7 o'clock, it arrives in our inbox. Rain, hail or shine, there is this memo from Dean Williamson. So he's so addicted to this, which I think is a healthy addiction, because it keeps everybody, the team morale and culture building, everyone knowing on the same page. He said to me when he's going to step back from the business, he's still going to do his morning memos. So on you, Dean. I actually do get a little bit mad if sometimes they're minutes late. I look forward to them. Bang on 7 a.m. every morning. It's the first thing I read when I wake up. Ceres Country is proudly supported, of course, by the great content and markets team of Global HQ that produce the trusted weekly newspaper known as Farmers Weekly, and bringing you the stories and guests in this edition of the show. During the COVID-19 lockdown period, flower growers were facing a grim future. So after 7:20, we're going to catch up with United Flower Growers Chief Executive Tony Hayes and how the online auction system was a lifeline for the flower sector. Then after 7:30, we learn from a Masterton farmer, Rupert Handyside, about his water storage project that now can hold 400,000 cubic metres, but all of the challenges that came with it. This is following a field day he's just recently had on farm with a focus of irrigation in the Wairarapa. To close the show, the horticulture industry is finally welcoming approval of seasonal workers. Only 2,000, and it comes at a cost. But how good is it? Chairman of Summerfruit, Clive Jones, will be joining us to explain what position it leaves the industry in. Firstly, the chair of New Zealand Winegrowers will join us next to celebrate New Zealand's wine exports hitting $2 billion, doubling in value over the past decade. This is Ceres Country.
Growing a better world takes courage. It takes foresight and vision. It's about dreaming big, then being brave enough to follow that dream through. To create a world where food is plentiful, soils are healthy, and rivers run crystal clear. A world where we grow more with less, where livestock is tended to with care. Energy is friend, not foe, and waste is a valuable resource. This is the world you're already shaping through imagination, innovation, and determination. So as small steps become huge leaps, you move boldly forward. And Rabobank is there beside you to help grow a better world together.
Really pleased we got into this. Thanks for your help, Dave.
It's a good idea, honey. You reckon it'll come out? Cover it in talcum powder, leave it 10 minutes, and you'll be fine. Good call, Dave.
Good call on getting those security cameras, Dave.
You caught a new one yet?
Yeah, kind of.
When you've got decisions to make, we'll be there to help you make the right call.
I'd go for those ones, Bob. Yeah, good call.
Did you choose these?
Oh, you know.
For great advice and insurance, talk to FMG.
If you're joining us live, thank you so much. And of course, I know so many of you take Sarah's Country on the road with you. Getting up early in the mornings now, of course, with daylight saving. Golly gosh, why am I even talking about that? That seems like so long ago. We're welcoming the first day of summer though. And I certainly just said to Joel, it is one of those things at this point in time on the 1st of December, we were looking out the window, so sunny, or the gardening that I've still got to do at home, but at least it's still going to be light. I've got the decorations are ready and the Christmas tree on the back of the Hilux. That will be my job straight after this show. So if you are watching with us live, I do really, really appreciate it, but I know a lot of you are tuning in via podcast. New Zealand's wine exports have doubled in value over a decade, with sales from October 2019 to 2020 totaling a record-breaking $2 billion. One thing we have learnt through lockdown was that people's love for wine was most definitely very prominent. Clive Jones, Chair of New Zealand Winegrowers, joins us now here on Sarah's Country. Clive, and certainly it's wine o'clock, and I mean you're working in the absolute best industry to be in, in terms of when even in previous recessions, global downturns, people turn to the booze.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's interesting. We made that prediction of going from 1 billion to 2 billion in the grips of the, a couple of years beyond the last global financial crisis. So, 2010, things were pretty tough back then. But I guess in terms of setting ourselves a goal, it was a bit of a BHAG at that stage, a big, hairy, audacious goal. But we thought, no, the demand's there. People love New Zealand wine. We think we can get to 2 billion within 10 years, and we've done it.
Congratulations, because, I mean, that's certainly not directly connected to COVID. It's just been an acceleration, and the plans have been in place with the New Zealand wine industry for some time. What I absolutely love about big, audacious, hairy goals is that you actually sit and work backwards with precision to work out how to achieve them. What have been some of those fundamentals to actually reach this goal and put that framework in place?
Well, we have seen steady growth over that 10 years, and look, we weren't too concerned if it happened this year, and certainly end of last year, beginning of this year, we didn't actually think it would happen in 2020. I thought it might have been 21, 22. We were always confident we were going to get there, but we have seen that acceleration happen. But I mean, we've always had faith in the New Zealand wine that we produce. It has this unique character. It's got a strong sustainability story, and it's a delicious drink at the end of the day. So we always felt that confidence in our product, and we've seen continuous growth over the last 10 years, but just a little acceleration in the last 6 months, which has got us across the line in the year 2020.
And I mean, the industry's absolute focus on quality over specifically volume has rewarded the wine industry. Do you think?
Yes, absolutely. So in our key export markets of the US, Australia and the UK, we're either the highest priced imported wine or the second highest. So, and that's an amazing position to be in. So, and to have, I guess, we have increased in volume and to get from 1 billion to 2 billion, but we've sort of maintained that value proposition as well too. So, and that's been very important to, it's not only about volume, it is about value as well.
Yeah. And I'm talking about markets with COVID and the disruption of supply lines. Can you give us a bit of an understanding of what it has been like and how it is now?
It's actually one of the challenges at the moment is getting product to market. So there's infrastructure issues with shipping containers. The flow of shipping containers around the world has been disrupted. So we're having to actually work a lot more in advance than perhaps we were expecting. So that's the whole flow of goods around the world. So we are seeing a few delays and things like that, but that's just something we're having to come to grips with, I guess. But I mean, we have seen a bit of a change in the way the wine is sold. So the volume or the acceleration has been at retail. So those companies that have got routes to market into supermarkets and chains of wine shops, etc., have done very well. But there are some companies that are more focused on restaurant sales, and that's actually been pretty tough because obviously with the restaurants have been closed around the world, they don't sell a bit of wine. So there's a little bit of a two-speed sort of situation happening, but overall the picture is very good.
I've got a winemaker quote in front of me that attributes the secret of New Zealand wine success to the fruit intensity, sense of place, and relative consistency of style. With the rise of sort of protectionism and nationalism in our markets, that uniqueness of our appellations here in New Zealand, is the New Zealand industry only just going to build deeper and deeper on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So, look, perhaps if we have grown in scale over the last 10 years, if plantings have increased, I think in terms of setting goals for the next 10 years, the value proposition and building additional value into our wine is going to be a key factor. We are going to run up against limits of availability of land or water or various resources that is going to put a restriction on supply. So, we want to make sure that we keep that demand up and we keep that value up for sure.
We're going to be speaking to Tim Jones from the Summerfruit industry towards the end of the show, Clive. I mean, grape harvest is typically near the end of the fruit harvesting season, so to speak. But where does your worries lie in regards to the valuable migrant workers not being able to come in? Or do you think it's too early to consider where things may be by then?
Well, look, it's a real issue, and like the wider horticultural industry, we've got concerns as well. We are concerned about the harvest, and we're actually concerned a little bit about helping the winery. So whether we've got enough people to come and help us with in the winery work, we have a peak of labour there. But in terms of the migrant workers and our peak labour demand, it's actually in winter when we have to prune. So in Marlborough, for example, there's over 50 million grapevines planted, and they all have to be hand pruned. So that's a big job. So we're hoping that we can sort of complement the peaks and troughs of the other horticultural industries and kind of share that labour around so that we all get perhaps a fair crack at it. And we get the key is getting the labour where it's needed, when it's needed, and that's going to take some organisation.
Hey, Clive, thank you so much for coming on Serious Country, and congratulations on hitting that $2 billion mark as an industry, and that's doubling in the last decade. A huge achievement. COVID made a disruption to my drinking rights from the family vineyard because I wasn't able to get under level 4 home to do the annual harvest. So therefore, I'm looking forward to being able to do it come this April. So yeah, and make sure I'll just keep those cases getting shipped up to Lincoln. And now after the break, we are going to be discussing another industry that has sort of capitalised on COVID with more to do with what they were planning on doing, and it gave them that kick up the bum. This is the flower industry, and Tony Hayes from United Flower Growers will be joining us very shortly here on Sarah's Country. This is Sarah's Country. Well, as I said at the start of the show, I was going to let you in on an addiction that I have. Every 2 weeks, sometimes 3, I can push it out. I must buy 2 bunches of white lilies from New World here in Lincoln, and it's that smell that just radiates throughout my house. I've actually started doing it here in the Taitapu office as well, and the team are loving it, thank God. I was really nervous that I was going to have someone with some itchy eyes. So our next guest is someone I'm really looking forward to talking to, and a story that has been in this recent Farmers Weekly. As we've heard in many serious country, it's about this flow-on effect, the consequences of this lockdown. And for many, it's been that thrust that they needed forward. And the COVID-19 lockdown for not only just fresh fruit and fresh vegetables and fruit being given away to charity due to the lack of outlets, it was also flowers. And earlier this year, flower growers faced a grim future with the 3 weekly flower auctions put to a halt and many outlets unable to open for sale. But a move quickly online into virtual auctioneering was an absolute stellar lifeline for the sector. And Tony Hayes, the Chief Executive of United Flower Growers, joins us now on Serious Country. Welcome to the show, Tony. Firstly, a fantastic idea. Is this something that was in the pipeline anyway? COVID just brought things to a head?
Firstly, Sarah, thanks for inviting me on tonight. I'm pleased to be with you. It's a great question, and what I can honestly say is that a few years back, probably 4 to 5 years ago, our cloud auction, or as it was back then, was pretty much an organic enhancement to what we already had, which was our physical auction. So it sort of sat to the left-hand side of the physical auctions that we have and operate. So at that time, pre-COVID, it was a choice factor for our buyers. Anyone who bought with us or bought through our company were able to choose between online and our physical sites. But back then, probably the bulk of our buyers chose naturally, because it was what they always had done. They chose to come to site for all the obvious reasons: the touch, the smell, the ambience of a flower market, and they could see what they could buy. But at that time, no one ever planned for or foresaw what was going to happen a few years later.
So what was it like for the buyers to be able to wrap their head around it? Was there some strategies that they had to try and adapt when those senses, like you just said, were such a huge part of the buying process for them?
Well, there's a number of important factors. Firstly, it was an adjustment for the entire market. For us too, we are the providers of that industry platform. And whilst it was designed to be an online facility for buyers to choose to buy from, it had never been tested with 100% of our buyers nationwide online. We never foresaw that there would be a circumstance where that would need to happen. So it was a rush to the line when it had to happen. So it was an adjustment overnight. So for all of us in the industry, it was an immediate pivot, and we had to do it with speed. So for us, in terms of getting the technical ability of the system to be able to manage that loading nationally with all of our buyers across the country on live at any one time, that was a significant hurdle. But it was also a hurdle for our buyers that buy online too, because 20% of them would have been buying online prior to COVID. So therefore, 80% of them probably had never used that system before. So it's an immediate learning curve. But unfortunately, as played out, there was literally no choice. We had to pivot. We had to make that adjustment.
And I mean, this is an industry that employs 10,000 people, and the disruption would have been significant. How have the growers been able to adjust their business to come out the other side?
Well, it's fair to say at the beginning, when we were in level 4, for many, there was a huge amount of disruption. We saw on the media at that time, there were growers that lost product literally overnight, and there were many others that gave product away to the public as a goodwill gesture, simply because there was no market in which to sell it to. So for them, it's been a period of recovery, and I think that's fair to say across the country, both north all the way down south. Every grower has been individual with the way they've been impacted, and they've all been working hard to try and repair what was damaged at the time in terms of lost product, because ultimately going forward, supply needs to adjust itself back up to what we need it to be. And at the moment, supply to the market is slightly behind where it would be at this time of year, and that's pretty much as an outcome of what we saw back in April. So we're still finding our way through it now, as are the growers, as are the buyers.
There's a lot of things, as I've said, that can be positive to stay forward with us into the new normal. We're using all those classic words in this interview, aren't we? Pivot, normal, all the ones we're sick of. But I mean, the beauty of what you did was you enhanced on the Dutch auction and brought video to it, real-time video to the online selling process. We've seen this in the livestock industry. It came in because it had to, and it sort of petered back out, but utilised for some things and not all. Is this something the industry is actually saying can help with efficiencies of the buying process or anything like that? Or do you think it was just a thing for lockdown?
Well, the beauty of the system that we operated, both pre and post, is that we always had the live streaming ability. So it was always set up and built around that model of being able to see what's actually going on live. That's unique to New Zealand. I'm not aware of any other auction site around the world that does a live stream. So for us, it's a point of being unique. But in addition to that, we set that up, or that was set up with that pure idea around ensuring the buying experience online, wherever that buyer is located in the country, they have the same experience as if they would do if they were at a physical live auction. The only thing that's different between online and being on site is clearly the physically seeing the product live right in front of you, and the potential smell of the flowers too. But we've got around that, not so much the smell, because you can't do anything about that, but in terms of the actual physical seeing the product, we actually hold bunches of flowers or stems of flowers. The actual flowers themselves, we take them out of the buckets as we're selling them through the auction, and we pivot that head closer to the camera so that those online buyers can actually see the petals, the colour, and look at the quality of the heads. So the whole idea around that is so that the buying experience online is as close as we can make it to what all of those buyers see in our physical auctions. Testament to that is we still see 40% of our buyers now choosing, not forced, choosing to buy online, whereas pre-COVID it was somewhere between 15 and 20% of our buyers.
That's very encouraging. While I've got you here, Tony, I know there will be a lot of viewers and listeners that have just genuinely got an interest in maybe the similar challenges happening in the flower industry as in other parts of the primary sector. Firstly, labour shortage and the migrant workers not being able to come in. Is it affecting your industry?
It doesn't affect us. We are a service provider to both the growers. We sell product on their behalf to all of our buyers. So it doesn't affect us per se, but certainly I think with some of the growers, probably the more regional ones, that may rely on a little bit of assistance at peak season, that could probably be an issue to them. But I don't think it affects us as near as what it would do other primary sector industries, as we've seen or are seeing at the moment on the news.
And what about urban sprawl and the protection of soil? Because I know a lot of your growers are near Auckland.
I think urban sprawl, the biggest impact of that actually is the land effect on land and the demand on land from building developers. Because obviously you get developers that want primary land, particularly up here in Auckland. That puts pressure on growers, possibly to sell, and it's those same growers that we rely on, the market relies on to feed the product and supply through the network. So it's fair to say, I think, pressure in terms of real estate, land values, that's certainly got an effect for us over the next 5 or 10 years.
And of course, it would go without a doubt having you here. I mean, is it hard to choose from all of your children of a favourite type of flower that you've got a dear spot in your heart for, Tony? Or
I think it's a great way of putting it. There's actually we've just come out of New Zealand Flower Week, and there's a video that we put together. There's a number of videos in actual fact, but one of them is to do with a grower up here in Auckland, and he himself articulates his flowers as being his children, and sometimes at the weekends he'll wander through his shed, his glass house, to look at the mood of the flowers to see how his children are. And that's a fantastic way of putting it, because that's the love and respect that our growers, all of our growers, have for their product, because it's a living thing, and any disruption to the supply chain, both in terms of timing and weather, it has an immediate consequential impact to them. So for me, look, I'm an all-rounder, and that's not an easy get-out-of-jail type of response, but I am an all-rounder. I get the luxury, I have the luxury of seeing our auctions 3 times a week here in Auckland. Auckland is our biggest auction by a long way. So we have the biggest variation of range available up here. And when you actually walk in on an auction morning and see all of the flowers, all merchandise ready for sale at our auction, it just blows your mind away. They always say that flowers has the ability to change moods, and that's true. It really, really does. And we get in, our team starts at 4:30 in the morning, they have our auction, and when you come in at that time in the morning, it's not the easiest time of the day to get up and go to work, but when you come in, you're actually inspired by what you see. It's just an incredible feeling and experience, and I get to do that three times a week. So for me, I'm a bit of an all-rounder. I love the products that we sell. I love the fact that we have seasons turning on and turning off. We've got some great products coming up for Christmas, which all of our buyers love and are all waiting for. So it's all to come. And we're in a great season now. It's Christmas, and we've got some good volumes coming through.
That was a very diplomatic answer, Tony. And so therefore all of your flower children will, not be feeling jealous. So well done. Thank you so much. And just you described that so beautifully. I just want to go to a flower market at 4:30 in the morning. Just the sensory experience of that sounds so amazing. Now that was Tony Hayes from United Flower Growers, following a story from Richard Rennie in this week's Farmers Weekly in the new Thinking section titled Success Blooms at Online Auctions. You can find it at farmersweekly.co.nz. Up next in Sarah's Country, groundwater levels in many parts of the country are very low, and predictions of summer ahead are not as encouraging either. We're going to be joined by Rupert Handyside, a farmer from Masterton, who's just recently had an on-farm field day focusing on what he's doing with farm irrigation in the Wairarapa.
This is Sarah's Country.
I was actually just thinking, we were talking there about healthy addictions. I actually have another one that I will share with you. Religiously, every evening before I go to bed, I have a cup of chamomile. So I think that's reasonably healthy. I just started it when I was starting to get into better sleep routines, and then it just becomes a thing quite easily, doesn't it? And I swear by it in terms of getting you off to sleep. So there you go. Healthy addictions you can have. Think about that over your new year, new you bollocks that carry on, and but in the meantime, make the most of those more unhealthy habits that we have, because it's Christmas only once a year. More than 50 people turned up recently to an on-farm field day organised by the Wairarapa Water Users Society. With groundwater levels in many parts of the country at very low levels, many farmers are out searching for water storage options. The field day was held at our next guest farm, where he showcased his 9-hectare storage pond, including a project description, planning requirements, and some of the challenges that came with it. I can only imagine. Rupert Handyside joins us now on Sarah's Country. Rupert, thank you so much for taking the time. I caught this article by Colin Williscroft in this week's Farmers Weekly and was in awe of the scale of the project. 400,000 cubic metres of water it can hold. My first question is, how long did it take?
It took about 6 or 7 years to sort of plan from sort of idea really to actually to irrigating, basically.
Yeah, and the great team of contractors around you, all of the support and the planning, etc. You never wavered from the concept. You were dead set on this water storage project as being the solution for you going forward?
As far as irrigation and stock water goes, we didn't really have any other options as far as groundwater goes or that sort of thing. And so we looked at the storage, and probably the main reason we looked at it is we had a natural site that we thought we didn't need to do much earthworks to create the volume. And then from there we went to an engineer, and there's a reasonable catchment up behind it as well to fill the dam. And he confirmed that. And but there was a bit of hesitation there for a year or two, whether we were doing the right thing or not. And at the end of the day, we just sort of were they going to do it or not, and we decided to do it. So,
what's the soil structure like? Because the material that you use to build a dam is sometimes where people don't quite get it right. How did you master that?
Well, I didn't really master anything really, but we got a geotech report done, and they sort of confirmed that it wasn't going to leak, and the material for the dam it was a bit of a learning process as we went, but you could get a lot of reports done and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, we actually just dug 5 or 6 big holes with a digger, and that showed us what the soil was and what was right. And we had an area where it wasn't suitable material, so we had to get that out of the way and bring in suitable material, which was very close, sort of within 200 or 300 metres, on a dump truck, and so that's how we did that.
What I was really impressed with in this article is that you really nailed the cost of the project, and CHB Earth Movers have said that $1.50 per cubic metre of water is the cheapest that he had seen, and it's usually can be up as far as $6 per cubic metre. So what were some of those fundamental things that I know for those listening along may like to know how to keep those costs down?
I guess if it's not a sort of a natural site where you don't have to do much earthworks, then I can really see how it would ramp up. Or if the materials there are unsuitable, then it would be, in my view, unfeasible. Or if you had to line it, which some larger ones have done, but they're not really in my game.
And the massive other cost, Rupert, is, of course, running it. One thing's to put it in, but afterwards, in regards to power, you've gone for a pump-operated scheme. Did you look at all the other options for power?
Yeah, we did. We looked at everything, from water wheels to solar to absolutely everything. We were lucky enough with GV Electrical and Pumping, and Grundfos came up with a pump system that was very efficient with power, and it's a variable speed drive, so we only use as much power as we're using. Whether we've only got one irrigator going, so there'd only be, say, 1.5 pumps going. Or if both are going in stock water, then 4. It adjusts to suit the power need. And the electricity on the Wairarapa is some of the dearest in the country. So that was sort of a no-brainer, really. It cost a little bit more up front to get it done, but obviously electricity goes up quicker than inflation, so it was a bit of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this recent on-farm field day, where a lot of the Wairarapa farmers were coming together to learn from your experience. Was it more so about creating on-farm storage dams, or was it what you'd done with irrigation, more so for those who haven't gone down that path?
The field day I think was about there were three sort of main things. One of them was how we got on in the process of getting the dam built and irrigating. So there were speakers. GV Electrical did the pumping, speaking how that all worked, and Justin Neville, CHB Earthworks, he did how they built the dam, and then they also talked about the Greater Wairarapa, the bigger proposed dam.
Yeah. So lastly, Rupert, what has it done in terms of transforming your property? 128 hectares of your farm are being able to irrigate 120 days of the year. You must be able to sleep well at night, with or without chamomile tea.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly created a bit of certainty, and especially going forward, it's sort of basically that reliability, certainty, and it was definitely, in my view, a good move.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And of course, there is the Waka Community Water Storage Scheme underway and in the Wairarapa, and there is a lot of energy and enthusiasm in the space with, of course, the outcome of what it could do for that land. Not necessarily about the intensification of land use these days when it comes to security of water. And I grew up from a family that know security and water go hand in hand. Thank you so much there to Robert. And you can catch that story by Colin Willis-Croft in this week's Farmers Weekly, as well as farmersweekly.co.nz. Lastly on the show, the front page story of Farmers Weekly is focusing on the 2,000 recognised seasonal workers that have been given the green light to start work in New Zealand. But at what cost and the barriers? Does it make it worth it? We're going to be joined by Tim Jones, the chairman of Summerfruit New Zealand, to close the show here on Sarah's Country.
This is Sarah's Country.
One of the first things you learn when you live out here
is where to shop for the things you need to live out here.
like electric fencing,
or horse feed,
or bee suits,
children, chook food.
Do you want a couple of these?
Or something stylish to wear. Not everyone's got stuff like this.
But at Farmlands we do, and then some.
So if you need anything to help your farm,
grow,
milk, dredge,
rear, come on in.
Because we're out here too.
Every morning, Kiwi farmers wake up to produce high quality food. Yet, every night, some Kiwi families are going to sleep hungry. Meet the Need is a charity founded by farmers, and it's here to change all that. We're about New Zealand farmers feeding New Zealand families by donating a small part of what we grow when we can. You can help us make sure no one in New Zealand goes to sleep hungry again. Visit meettheneed.org and follow us on social.
I have to say that when I did get this press release come through, I did have a WTF moment when it was when you actually start to read further through the article. Can I suggest for those who live their life by headlines that reading the bulk of the article is actually really good for your health because you don't go around spouting how wonderful things are. And I was definitely been going around clarifying the details of this one. It's not as rosy as it seems. 2,000 seasonal workers from the Pacific Islands are welcomed into New Zealand. And the horticulture industry is taking them with open arms. However, they will have to be in isolation for 14 days from a COVID-free country. The employer will need to pay for that quarantine at over $4,700 and pay their wages for 2 weeks whilst in those isolation facilities to come here for fruit picking season. I may be wrong, and I hope I am wrong at letting our next guest put me right if not. Tim Jones, Chair of Summerfruit New Zealand, joins us now from Cromwell. Tim, I mean, it's very hard to be ungrateful for workers in this current environment, but it doesn't seem like it's stacking up, or am I wrong? And he's gone. I'm not too quite sure. He literally was just there 2 seconds ago. I can see him now. Tim joins us now. Can you hear us, Tim?
Now, she just disappeared on me then.
No worries. So, yeah, what I was just saying is, am I being unfair?
Sorry? Yeah, I just missed that, sorry.
Oh, my apologies. Am I being unfair around the details of the 2,000 extra workers coming in and it's stacking up economically?
Yeah, I guess what we have to say for a start is that the industry welcomes the announcement from government.
Yeah.
The wider horticultural industry, it's going to be vital for helping New Zealand's COVID recovery from particularly the late summer and autumn harvests, you know, the apples and the kiwi fruit. I guess we have to say from a Summerfruit point of view, we are, it's probably not coming in time to help us to the extent that we had hoped. But it is an important decision, not only for the harvest of New Zealand crops, but also for the remittances that go back to Pacific countries. It's a vital part in not only our economy, but their economy as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, 16,000 workers were expected. 2,000 was the number to be allowed in from mid-January onwards. I certainly know that cherries and even going into the apricots will be well underway by that point, Tim. So realistically, for the start of most of the summer fruit, it's not really going to make any difference at all.
I don't think this announcement will, but the work that the industry's been doing over the last 6 months or even longer, you know, I think back to when we first went into lockdown in March and sitting at the exact same table I'm sitting at now talking to you thinking, gosh, what are we going to do for seasonal labour at the end of the year? And we've been really working on it for that length of time and putting the word out to attract the different cohorts of seasonal workers that will come and help out the summer fruit industry.
What about the government trying to incentivise Kiwis with a $1,000 payment and accommodation allowance for $200 a week as well? Is that having a flow-on effect? Are the orchardists seeing people turn up in their droves?
Yeah, look, we're getting far more inquiry from New Zealanders looking for work than we ever have had. And from our own business's point of view, in the past we might have had about 30% Kiwis looking for seasonal work. This year we're probably well in excess of 50%, even approaching 60%. So the announcement from Minister Sepuloni that people from outside the regions who are MSD clients and are looking to help out the industry and uptake the seasonal work, having access to accommodation allowances and a bonus for staying for 6 weeks is a great boost to us, particularly knowing that we don't have access to that RSE labour because it's not coming in until next year.
What are the conversations that you're happening in terms of the next stage? It's not obviously sit back and wait. There's certainly the flow-on effect after that as well. Is the dialogue, this is just the start?
I guess the environment we're in, it's not, we all hope it's a one-season issue, but I don't know that it is, and I think we need to keep engagement with the various government agencies to work on solutions as we move forward. COVID has probably brought forward the conversation we need to have about seasonal labour. And I think as an industry we need to get round the table once we get through this season and provide some sustainable outcomes for our growers. And that really I think will involve trying to make the industry a whole lot more attractive, trying to make the seasonal work proposition for New Zealanders more attractive. Because there is, even though it's short and sharp from a cherry point of view, but you can come down to Central Otago and you can do 6 or 7 months' work quite easily if you combine summerfruit, grapes, pipfruit, those sorts of things. So, there's a whole thing that we can make happen.
And we had Nikki Johnson on Serious Country the other day, and the conversations with the Bay of Plenty as well, Tim. Is that a positive?
Yeah, there's synergies amongst the different regions and the different horticultural industries. We all need workers at different times. Grapes, for example, in Marlborough, their busy season is pruning in the winter. Kiwi fruit's obviously late autumn, and down in Central Otago, we have a real peak with our harvest. So we can all work in together, I think, and make this thing work.
Absolutely. What about, the elderly in their buses and camper vans? Are they coming back in droves as well?
They're always more than welcome. We employ a lot of those sort of people. It's great to see them. I hesitate to say, but we call them the grey gypsies. They turn up every year, and they're a really reliable part of our workforce. They take some key positions, particularly in packhouse, rather than being out in the heat of the sun in the summer. And having those people come back year after year is really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And they certainly enjoy the company and going around in droves. I know that from my grandparents doing that for many seasons as well. I really want to turn now to the islands and the conversations that you're having with the communities over there. What type of economic blowback is it having over there, not having this income flowing into those communities?
I think it's really tough on them at the moment. We get a lot of our seasonal workers in the past from Vanuatu, the RSE men and women, and I think tourism is the number one industry in the islands, followed closely by seasonal labour. And so to have both hit on the head's been really tough. So the sooner that the scheme can get back up and running from their point of view to get those remittances back, the better, they will be off, and it'll be a help to us as well. These guys, they come to New Zealand for 7 months out of every year, and they use the money for such important things, to set up businesses, to educate their children, and it's vital we get it back up and running.
Tim, while I've got you there, how is the season looking?
Well, from a summerfruit point of view, I think we're running a little bit earlier than normal, although that'll slow things down. Cherries, normally we start to ease into it about mid-December and hit our peak in January. I think we'll be maybe 7 to 10 days before that this year, and that'll follow on closely with the apricots, peaches and nectarines in February and early March. And then, of course, the apple guys follow in behind with their autumn harvest.
And just actually on that RCEP, this Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and this new rule book for China and Asia trade, cherries our export cherries into Asia is a huge market. How are some of those trade agreements going to have a positive effect on the future going forward for summerfruit?
Well, cherries are very popular right throughout Southeast Asia. It's not just, the big markets like China and Taiwan. They're our two biggest markets, but it's the emerging economies of Vietnam. Thailand's an important one for us, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore. So anything that, starts to deal with the trade barriers and makes it easier to get fruit through into our customers overseas is of great benefit to us.
Oh, thank you so much, Tim, for joining us at what is a very busy time at the moment down in Central Otago. Tim Jones from Summerfruit New Zealand joining us there. And of course, that is all we have time for on Serious Country. Another show to close out the week tomorrow, and very much excited to let you know I have wonderful Tessa, who is the editorial producer of Serious Country, is doing a great job working alongside the reporters, bringing you the content. I certainly get so much wonderful feedback from you all saying, it is the guests that makes the show, and it's with every show that I love. It's certainly got nothing to do with the host. The calibre of guests that we have access to that want to come on the show and share their stories is absolutely incredible. And of course, the great team at Farmers Weekly have done a lot of the legwork prior to them coming onto the show. This is a massive team effort here at Sarah's Country. Tomorrow, Kerry Johnson from Irrigation New Zealand is going to share their future plans. It's been an interesting year for the organisation. Kerry, as the chair, will paint the picture and direction, carrying on from that great conversation with Rupert earlier on the show. Stuart Anderson, Director of Ministry for Primary Industries in Bovis program, is going to give us an update on these latest outbreaks in Canterbury. Should we be worried? Scott Wishart, Managing Director at NZAB, I want the latest on where the dairy debtors and the bank's appetite for rural lending. And Stephen Thompson from Gisborne, the founder of the mental health initiative known as Surfing for Farmers, is absolutely popular here at Sumner in Christchurch. I want to know more about how it's blowing up around the country and what a fantastic initiative it is. In the meantime, you can email me, sarah@sarahscountry.com. Head to the Sarah's Country website for any of the past interviews. And of course, if you love podcasts, give us a subscribe so that you have those interviews individually downloading for you on your next drive, or of course, as many have told me, on that treadmill in the morning. Great healthy habit or addiction that many of you have. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. In the meantime, good night and go well.
This is Sarah's Country.